Greetings, fellow masters. It is I, the bell tolls. I am very pleased to announce that it is time. As you saw from the intro, this is a very exciting moment in NA Fate Grand Order history. At least, it is for me. We finally have a node to farm the elusive heart of a foreign god. This elusive gold mat happens to be required by an almost cruel amount of servants. Just check the chart. You need well over 1,500 of them to max everyone out, which at first seems an impossible feat. In fact, if you want a depressing statistic, farming all those hearts at the current AP per drop rate would require approximately 1,933 AP bars at the new level cap of 140. So unless you're dropping some Benjamins on quartz for refills, this is going to take a long time. But hey, at least it's not the 40 AP caster daily, right? Instead of thinking about how many days we need to spend in Shinjuku, let's move on to some information that won't make us question what we're doing with our lives. Let's talk about events. More specifically, events that will provide you with those juicy hearts. As per usual, here's a timestamp to skip if you don't care about this segment. Now then, the next event is the Guda Guda Hanoji rerun, offering 10 hearts in the shop. There's also the Tapana free quest, which can drop them. After that, Guda Guda Maiji Ishin has 10 hearts in the Oda Bakufu point ladder. No nodes. Seraph has 5 hearts from mission rewards, and the Lover's Squeeze node drops them. Hunting Quest 3 gives a fine opportunity to farm hearts and dragon fangs, and the node is only 2 waves for quick runs. The Rashomon rerun has 5 hearts from daily missions, along with 10 in the shop. On top of that, every node on day 7 has a chance to drop hearts. I'm not sure how the drop rates differ between the different difficulties, but I'll make an educated guess that the 3 BP node will be the best. Following that, the Onigashima rerun has an additional 10 from damage point rewards, and the Tower node on Demon and Rakshasa difficulties drop them. Later on, Caldea Heat Odyssey has another 10 in the shop, and hearts can drop from the Underground Factory node at expert and higher difficulties. In Death Jail Summer Escape, during round 4, teams Altria and Nero, Raiko and Nitocris have nodes for them in 4th Underground area. Perhaps it's redundant to say both round 4 and 4th Underground area, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, NeroFest 2019 can drop hearts in the last node during the finals, and you can get 5 more out of the 4th Challenge Quest rerun. Mega Huge Pumpkin Village has 10 in the shop, and they're farmable from the Castle Gates node at expert and higher difficulty. Immediately after, Great Battle at Himeji Castle will give you another 10 hearts from mission clears. Next up, the Little Santa Altar rerun has 10 hearts in the event shop. And lastly, Merry Christmas in the Netherworld continues the pattern with 10 in the shop, along with the 5th Gate node which can drop them. That wraps up the events this year that provide hearts, and if we add all that up, we get a clean 100. While it's only a small dent in our total, every little bit helps. So now, let's get into where the bulk of our hearts are coming from. The best node for this until Salem is going to be Shinjuku Gyoen in, well, Shinjuku. Keep in mind this node won't appear on the map until you clear Shinjuku 4 Chome, and please God let that be the right pronunciation. Once you've cleared the prerequisite node, the true grinding begins. Let's have a look at the wave composition here. Our first wave is a batch of fairly weak Yakuza. 2 of them sport 19.6k health, while the third is 21.4k. Nothing any AoE rider can't take care of. The second wave is arguably weaker. Only 2 enemies this time, the first with 31.8k health, and the second with 28.9k. It's quite easy. Too easy, in fact. Now comes wave 3 and... there's the catch. The final wave is a single demon with a whopping 401,000 health. This rivals many story bosses in earlier singularities, and as such is nothing to sneeze at. Taking this guy down is going to be a challenge. I wish I could say there's an easy way of doing this, but if I'm being honest, there isn't. Not cheaply at least. And I mean that literally. You're going to need some top tier craft essences if you have any hopes of 3-turning this. But I digress. Let's dive into the team comps that'll put this demon to bed. As usual, we're starting with the F2P/C2P comp. Our first servant is Edward Teach, equipped with a 50% charge CE. We're mainly using him for his first skill, Voyager of the Storm, and his AoE NP for wave 2. MP5 is obviously preferable, and they're going to want Voyager at level 6 minimum. Next up is Ushiwakamaru, also equipped with a 50% charge CE. It doesn't entirely matter which one, but damage will definitely help. Her main purpose is for decent damage on the demon, along with her party-wide attack buff. You'll want her second skill as high of a level as possible, but you can get by with level 4. Her NP level isn't as crucial as Kentoki's, but obviously, the higher the better. Finally, we've got Rider Kentoki, the Golden Boy. He's equipped with specifically Halloween Princess with a 20% MP damage buff, but Holy Night Dinner can work too. As a last resort, Ryodoji Temple can also fill the role, but you'll definitely want an ML bead. You'll want his first and second skills as high as possible. Quick performance and NP gain are vital. The support actually doesn't matter here, as we're spending our first wave just generating NP. Possibly the second wave too if you can't fail at the NP bars in time. For the Mystic Code, I'm gonna say Royal Brand is mandatory. The quick buff it provides is just too valuable to look over. However, depending on your Mystic Code levels, Brilliant Summer can also work, as it'll buff both Ushi and Katoki, just not as much. If they're both level 10 though, I'd go with Royal Brand. 50% on Katoki is going to push out more damage than 30% on both him and Ushi. There's the explanation, now let's cover the strategy. As mentioned earlier, Wave 1 is going to be solely for NP charge. The caster enemies here aren't going to do much to your riders, so you can take as much time as you need building your NP gauges. You'll want both Ushi and Teach to get to 100%, while Katoki depends on what level his second skill is. At level 10 it charges a full 50%, so you could potentially not need to worry about him at all. Once everyone is charged up, you can just use Buster cards to get the rest of the wave down. Also, you can use Ushi's first skill for a party-wide NP generation up, which should aid in getting everyone charged up. Moving into Wave 2, if you have enough NP gauge, you can just use Teach's NP. If not, keep using Arts cards until you do. This wave isn't anything special. You either one-shot it or use it as a battery. Wave 3 is where the magic happens. You should have both Ushi and Katoki's NPs available, but before that, you'll need to buff up. Use Teach's first skill, Ushi's second skill, and then Katoki's first two skills. Then, use either Royal Brand's quick buff on Katoki or Brilliant Summer's quick buff. Once everything is stacked up, you can start unleashing the pain. Start with a command card, preferably a Buster, then use Ushi's NP followed by Katoki's. It's important that Katoki goes second because his overcharge effect gives him yet another quick buff, making him deal that much more damage. This combo should heavily injure the demon, or if your skills in Mystic Code are especially high leveled, even kill it outright. If it didn't kill it, just face card it down. He won't hurt too much. Unfortunately, with all the face carding, this is going to take you around 8 turns to finish. Definitely not ideal, but you gotta work with what you have. Either way, congratulations, you can now farm hearts. This can certainly be improved upon, so let's do that with the Midcore comp. Looks a bit different, doesn't it? We've switched out Teach for Alexander, because he provides both a party-wide attack and party-wide quick buff, which works well with both Ushi and Katoki. He has a regular K-scope here, so that we can minimize the time we need to spend farming NP on Wave 1. His NP level isn't too important, as he'll smash through Wave 2 without much issue. Ushi stays the exact same, no changes here. We've still got Rider Katoki, but this time he has something special. He's equipped with a Black Grail, which makes his NP damage nothing short of monstrous. It also doesn't need to be MLB'd, a regular Black Grail will do just fine here. Our support servant is important this time. We'll need Waver to get Ushi to 100% and also top Rider Katoki off. Lastly, we switched up Royal Brand / Brilliant Summer for Plug Suit, as that's the only way we're going to get Waver on the field. The attack buff helps too. As for strategy, this starts off similarly to the F2P comp. You want to spend Wave 1 generating NP, but you don't need nearly as much. You can ignore Ushi entirely and just focus on getting Alexander the 20% he needs, and then enough for Katoki. Again, for Katoki, you'll need to consider the level of his battery. If it's level 10, for example, you only need to get 30% NP on this wave. Considering he's pretty great at generating NP for himself, this shouldn't be too difficult to pull off. For Wave 2, you'll want to use Alexander's first and third buffs, then his NP. His buffs last 3 turns, so using them now is just fine. This should be a pretty quick wave. Wave 3 is once again where everything comes together. You'll want to swap Alexander out for Waver, then use all of Waver's buffs on Ushi. There's a decent chance you might not need all of them, as on Wave 1 you might accidentally charge up Ushi and Katoki. Regardless, after that, use Ushi's second skill, Katoki's first and second skills, then the Plug Suit attack buff. Do a command card, Ushi's NP, then Katoki's NP. This should easily one-shot the demon. This comp should shave off a couple of turns from the F2P one, taking around 5 or 6. We can still do better though, and that's where the whale comp comes in. The holy grail of demon farming. Let's show it. I hope you've got your K-scopes ready, because this is where you'll need them. Also, shout out to Zakuda on the Farmville Discord for sharing this comp. Yes everyone, I'm sorry. I didn't come up with this on my own. I'm a giant fraud. Anyway, we have Alexander again for both his buffs and his AoE NP. He's equipped with an MLB K-scope so we can smash the first wave immediately. That's right, no NP farming this time around. We're hitting them hard and fast. Edward teaches next with regular K-scope. This could be an MLB, but it doesn't really matter. He has buffs and an AoE NP, so that's the important part. Last up is Rider Katoki, this time with a beefier MLB Black Grail. That's an 80% buff to NP damage, which we'll be using to its fullest. He's going to need his second skill at level 10 for this to work, so I hope you've invested in him. If you haven't, you should. He's an excellent single target rider. The strategy here isn't too complicated, as you can imagine. For Wave 1, use Alexander's first and third buffs, then his NP. It's as easy as that, and actually does way more damage than we actually need here. But it's okay, a little overkill never hurt anyone. On wave 2, swap out Alexander for Waver, then apply the buffs. You need to use Waver's first skill on Katoki to ensure he reaches 100%. All that's left is to use Teach's NP, and this wave is over. For the final wave, it's real buff hours. Use Teach's first skill, Katoki's first and second skills, then the Plug Suit attack buff. All that's left is to use Golden Drive and send that demon into the good night. Just like that, you've got yourself a 3-turn heart farming comp, where honestly the most expensive part is the CEs. If you've got those, you're golden. Pun completely intended. So there you have it, 3 different ways to farm Heart of a Foreign God. Obviously these aren't the only comps you can do this with, but this is what I found easiest. I'm sure you can do some swaps here or there depending on what you've got to work with. As always, thank you very much for watching. This is just the first in my series of Shinjuku videos, so keep your eyes peeled. Be sure to subscribe so you know the moment the next farming video goes up. Liking, commenting, and sharing also help, but that's totally on you. I won't judge if you don't. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some hearts to farm. Farewell for now, fellow masters. May your farming be bountiful, and may the bell never toll for you. Until next time.